another Friday from New York. Hello, America. The premise of these Fridays is to get to know our founding fathers. Why? Because back in the early 1900s, the progressives had an idea to fundamentally transform America, and it crashed the first time. It didn't work. They've been doing it in bits and pieces the whole time. It didn't work the first time because they knew they had to fix three things. One, undermine the Constitution. They had to get us off the Constitution. Stop reading it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just look at this law. Okay? They also started case law, study case law instead of the founders' words. The second thing they had to do is undermine the founding fathers. We loved these guys up until about 1920 to 1940. And we started losing interest in them. Okay? We loved them. They had to take them apart. It's 1920-ish that they first start revealing that they're just racist, white, rich guys. Okay? Then the last one was undermine faith and religion. Tonight, we're going to restore one of the founding fathers, one you've probably never even heard about, and it will also teach you a little bit about faith and religion, so it's two in one shot. We have a studio audience in tonight. We're going to talk to you guys a little bit on questions, but I want to know, who here knew about George Whitefield before you were invited to come? Three people. Three people. I had never heard of this guy. How many have read up since you got the invitation to come? Okay. Were you amazed at what you learned? Yes. Do you think there would have been a revolution without him? There would. There wouldn't have been. So how come, America, you've never heard of him? Well, I'll explain throughout the rest of the evening. And I have some experts here that are going to teach you about him. And he's an amazing guy. But first I want to tell you a little bit about, we're all looking for answers. Right? That's what we're here. We're here to restore some of these things. If you want to hold on to America, you have to restore them. And we're all looking for answers. And there's a lot of answers. And most people are just focused on politics and everything else. This show's going to be different. About a year and a half ago, I started the 9/12 Project. Now, I haven't talked about it much on this program because it's not my project. I'm a proud 9/12er myself, but I'm not involved in running it or anything else. This was a project for you. You do it. You put it together. Get together. But I want to give a little piece of advice to the 9/12 group. You need to double your efforts. You need to get more people into the project. Tea parties, you play a valuable role, but your role really is Washington. And I advise the Tea parties to be very careful because you're not rooted in values and principles. That doesn't mean you don't have values and principles. It means that's not your charter. What are your charter values and principles? And 9/12 members, if you are not studying the values and principles, if you're not looking at that, and you're not rooting yourself in that and the founding fathers, well, then you're doing something different. 9/12 Project is not a Tea Party. It wasn't a political action committee. It was a preservation committee. As I saw, it was for a way for people to get together, know that they weren't alone, and then to learn and teach each other about the values and principles that were important to the founding of our country. This is really important right now because just like any kind of movement, especially a rights movement, there will be others that join you. Martin Luther King wasn't alone. There were a couple of other people that wanted to change the world. There was Malcolm X. Only one of them stood. There was another one, William Ayres. Which one succeeded? The one that was in values and principles, Martin Luther King. It's important. We're going to go through some tough times in the coming months and years. Europe is on its way. We're seeing the very beginning of Europe falling apart. And things, when it falls, things are going to come. They're going to come crashing down on our heads, and they're going to come down crashing quickly. And we're all going to be, somebody's going to say, come, follow me, follow me. That direction is going to be a global direction. Values and principles and remembering who our founders were. You need to teach your children now. You need to see these things for yourself, and then you must teach yourself, and then you must teach your children. I've said for years now to wives and mothers, you must now start to see yourself as Sarah Connor. You must equip your children with the information they need to survive an ever-changing world. Ronald Reagan said many years ago, if this country fails and falls, where will the rest of the world go for freedom? But he also said this, America is the last stand. On the globe, there is no other place. And if this generation loses man's freedom, according to Ronald Reagan, this generation will not see it again. I just the other day read a letter between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. It was 1823 and 1824. And they were going back and forth, and they were talking about, wow, this thing's going to fall apart at some point. And Thomas Jefferson said, yes, yes. But if they lose freedom, he's speaking of us, future generations, if they lose freedom, there will be rivers of blood. I mean, he talks about rivers of blood 3-4 times before we finally gain freedom back. Boy, I hope that's not true, but I can tell you there will be rivers of blood if we don't have values and principles. Second attempt, third attempt, fourth attempt, it's going to take a while to turn it back around. You must see yourself as a guardian, somebody who will preserve what is true and pass it on. Be a guardian. We don't need militants. We don't need revolutionaries. We need guardians. We need leaders. There are plenty of Minutemen, people willing to be Minutemen. Where are the people that want to be George Washington? Where are the Benjamin Franklins? Where's Sam Adams? Where's John Adams? That's what the 9/12 Project is. It's not to create warriors, but to create great minds that understand freedom, to be able to be the next George Washington. That is your role. Now, it may be that you're George Washington. It may be that you're George Whitefield. It may not be that. It may be that you have to inspire somebody to be that. You may be raising the next George Washington. Guide them, shape them. Live the principles and the values. Almost nobody in this country is living them. Learn the truth. Live the life of our founders. Be a decent, righteous, forthright, honest man or woman. Just do this one thing. Promise yourself you'll never deal underhanded to anybody. You will be honest in all of your business dealings. That is hard. Conquer that one. Demand it of yourself. Demand a higher standard for yourself and your children, and do it now. Your children need to see an example. Your children need to learn these things. Your children must be prepared. Your children need to know what is true, what is not, what it is to work, what merit is. There's one thing that I learned from George Whitefield, and that is individual rights and standing out alone. Being a guy this guy took eggs and tomatoes to the head all the time. This guy was an outcast all the time. He was a preacher. Look at him. I mean, I don't think I could take him seriously. I mean, I hope that's not really what he looked like. But he stood there. He wasn't in a church. No church would let him speak. He went outside in the snow, in the rain, alone. He was fascinated by Moses, and so am I. When Moses went out in the wilderness, the Israelites, man, they were constantly complaining. I'm hot, I'm cold, are we there yet? I mean, over and over and over again. Moses got to the point where he's like, okay, God, just kill me now. I can't be with these people anymore. Okay? They were having a tough time. God was not some distant concept. He was personal to Moses. He really said, just take me now. Just kill me now. God said, I'm going to send some fiery snakes because I'm sick of those people too. And here's what happened. He said to Moses, Moses, just take one of the snakes, make a representation of it, and put it on a stick. And tell everybody to look at it. If they've been bitten by the fiery serpent, then just tell them to look at the stick and they'll be fine. Well, what do you think? What would you do? What would you do? I'd be like, you got to be kidding me, right? I'm going to look at the stick? I don't think so. I mean, if I would have had the seas open up and the water from the rock and everything else, I might have listened to Moses, but a lot of them didn't. Because it was too simple. It was too simple. Didn't make sense. Well, what is that story really about? What is the message? The message Moses was bringing is look to God and live. Look to God and live. There's going to be a lot of answers. A lot of them are going to be complex. Don't dismiss the simple one. It's not about you, it's not about me. It's really about our children and their freedom.